Welcome to the deep dive. Whether you're out there looking for a job or maybe you're on the other side trying to build your team, well, finding that perfect match, it feels tougher than ever these days.
It really does. And our source material puts it quite nicely, I think. Successful recruitment, it takes two to tango.
Right. Both sides have got to lead, got to follow. It's a shared responsibility.
Exactly. So today, we're not just, listing the difficulties. We want to distill the core strategies, really zero in on what works for a winning recruitment effort. We're looking at this from both angles, the organization and the job seeker.
Okay.
We've identified 4 sort of key principles from sources that aim to cut through the usual noise and focus on what really matters: efficiency and, connection.
Our goal here is pretty straightforward. Give you, our listener, a kind of shortcut to finding a better match faster. So we've got these 4 steps building on each other, and we're starting with maybe the biggest time waster, that lack of focus.
Yeah, the first strategy we're calling targeted strategy versus the spaghetti approach.
The spaghetti approach. I like that. Just throwing it at the wall.
Pretty much. Look, we've all seen it, right?
Yeah.
Volume seems to have completely replaced precision in, a lot of hiring processes.
Yeah.
If you're a recruiter, your inbox is overflowing. You're wading through resumes that are, let's be honest, mostly wishful thinking. And if you're a candidate, your LinkedIn is just, it's chaos. Irrelevant messages, jobs that are nowhere near a good fit. It's inefficient. And frankly, pretty frustrating for everyone.
Totally. So, okay, volume is the problem. Let's not just complain about it, though. What's the fix? What's the countermeasure here?
Well, the source is clear.
No?
Just throwing options out there, hoping something sticks. That's a guaranteed path to, frustration.
Right. Wasted time, wasted energy.
The solution is actually maybe a bit counterintuitive in our super digital world.
Oh, okay. Intriguing.
It is. The source actually suggests something kind of radical to cut through all that digital noise. Going analog.
Going analog. In this job market, how does that work? Aren't we sacrificing, massive reach?
It sounds like it, doesn't it? Like you're limiting yourself.
Yeah.
But the idea, and the data seems to back this up, is that it delivers a really critical advantage. Much higher conversion rates.
Okay, explain that.
Sure. So if you just rely on these huge digital job boards, yes, you get volume, tons of applications, but the quality, the actual fit, often very low.
Right. The signal-to-noise ratio is terrible.
Exactly. But by actively tapping into, say, alumni networks or specific professional groups, maybe even attending targeted industry events, you're inherently pre-qualifying people.
Because they're already in the right ballpark, interest-wise or professionally.
Precisely. The source implies, look, you might cut your lead volume significantly, maybe even by half, but your conversion rate, the chance of finding a real match, could potentially triple.
Wow.
Yeah, because the intent is stronger. The fit is likely much closer right from the start.
Okay, that's a really powerful idea. Fewer leads, but much, much stronger leads. A huge time saver, potentially. And that time you save by being targeted. Well, that leads us straight into the second key strategy. This one's about avoiding that late-stage disappointment. The power of early transparency.
Yes. This is really about respecting everyone's time, laying your cards on the table early on.
Makes sense.
The source is very direct about this, being evasive, especially about the big things like, compensation. Sure, it might drag out the initial courtship phase, but all you're really doing is investing time and energy into something that's probably not going to work out anyway. A poor match waiting to happen.
And this isn't just on the recruiter, right? This applies to both sides.
Absolutely. It's a two-way street.
Yeah.
The organization, the recruiter, needs to be upfront. Salary range, location needs, how urgent the role actually is.
Yeah.
Is this starting next week? Or are you just testing the waters? Be clear.
Okay, clear expectations from the employer side.
And candidates. You've got to meet them halfway. You need to really know what you need financially, what your absolute deal breakers are. And also be honest about your situation. Are you just casually exploring, or are you actively looking to make a move now?
Right.
Because if you know deep down you need, say, $150, and the recruiter mentions the budget caps out at $110.
Right.
Finding that out after 3 rounds of interviews, that's just,
Well,
it's professional sabotage for both parties.
Yeah, but hang on. Doesn't revealing your exact salary number or maybe how urgently you need a job, doesn't that weaken your negotiating position later on? Are we trading bargaining power for, speed?
That's a fair question.
Yeah.
And look, maybe for very senior executive level roles where negotiation is really complex, perhaps there's a different calculation.
Right.
But for the vast majority of jobs, The source suggests the efficiency gain from being transparent early massively outweighs any potential sort of marginal loss in leverage.
So if it's a deal breaker, just get it out there.
Pretty much. Whether it's salary or location or the start date. If there's a fundamental mismatch, like a 40% gap in salary expectations, finding that out on the first call lets everyone pivot immediately.
Saves weeks of cumulative time.
Exactly. Transparency is just the most efficient filter we have in this process.
Okay, efficiency, check. Transparency, check. So once we've got the logistics sorted up front, we then need to tackle something else, where maybe organizations often miss out on great talent, which is thinking beyond just the bullet points on a resume.
Right. This is where we can invest that time we saved earlier, focusing on the human element.
The human element, because the danger, especially with modern hiring tech, is just falling into that checklist mentality. Right?
Totally.
Right?
We get obsessed with finding the perfect match on paper. Does this person tick every single box?
Yeah.
But as the source really emphasizes, skills, specific knowledge, those things can usually be learned. But changing a person, their core character, their personality, how they fit into a team, that's infinitely harder. Maybe impossible.
So it's about digging deeper than that old cliche, the person is more than their resume. For recruiters, what does that actually look like in practice?
It means looking beyond just, the hard skills or certifications listed. Maybe someone lacks one specific software experience, okay. But what often matters more long-term is finding a good fit for the team culture.
Okay.
Finding the right personality. And crucially, things like intellectual humility, a genuine willingness to learn and adapt.
So screening for those harder-to-teach attributes.
Exactly. Things that are intrinsically difficult to train. This isn't just about vague soft skills. It means actively trying to assess things like grit, resilience, proactive problem solving.
Intellectual humility, you mentioned. That's interesting.
Yeah, the willingness to say, I don't know, but I can find out. These behavioral traits. They often indicate long-term potential much more reliably than, say, hitting a specific number of years at a previous company.
Okay, that makes sense from the recruiter side. But if you're the candidate, how do you show that? How do you showcase those qualities beyond just listing your past jobs on a PDF?
That's where you need to build your case outside the standard application form. It means maybe cultivating a solid online presence, LinkedIn, perhaps a personal blog, GitHub, if you're in tech, that actually demonstrates thought leadership or how you approach problems.
Show, don't just tell.
Precisely. Showcasing professional development, continuous learning, maybe contributions to open source projects. You're giving them a window into how you think and operate, not just a list of accomplishments.
Got it. And this kind of tunnel vision, it works both ways, doesn't it? Candidates can also get too focused on just the job description bullet points.
Absolutely. If you're considering a role, you need to look beyond the day-to-day tasks listed. What's the actual company culture like? What's the leadership style? Are there real opportunities for growth and learning?
Because if the culture fit is bad?
If that personality or cultural fit is off, yeah, no amount of technical skill is going to make that job feel right or sustainable in the long run. It's about matching character for long-term success, not just tasks for the short term.
Right. Character over immediate task requirements. Which brings us nicely to our final principle, because sometimes, even if you've done everything right, targeted approach, been transparent, assessed the real fit, sometimes the answer is still just no.
Yep.
But this principle reminds us that rejection isn't always final. It's often just about timing. We're calling it a no can be temporary.
Yeah, nobody likes hearing no, obviously, whether you're giving it or receiving it. But in recruitment, that no often has less to do with the person's actual competence and more to do with, well, external factors, temporary logistics.
Our source gave some good examples here. Like for the candidate, maybe the no comes because they're not quite ready to move cities yet.
Right, or they're finishing up a contract, or maybe they have a non-compete clause that runs for another 6 months.
Or even just salary. Maybe what they need is perfectly reasonable, but it's just more than that specific role can support right now.
Exactly. And flip it around. From the company side, the no might be because they desperately need someone who can start, like, tomorrow.
Immediate urgency.
Or maybe they just got funding for a project that requires a really niche specific skill set they didn't anticipate needing before. Or maybe it's about team dynamics needing a particular personality type to balance out an existing team.
These are all contextual reasons, not really judgments on the person's ability.
That's the key takeaway. Because these reasons for the no are so often logistical or time-based, it's absolutely vital for both sides, the recruiter and the candidate, to treat every interaction professionally, like building a relationship.
Don't burn bridges just because the timing is off this cycle.
Exactly. Keep that line of communication open. Maintain the connection respectfully. Because today's no, if handled well, can easily become a high-quality, already vetted yes down the road when the circumstances change.
It's like an investment in your future talent pipeline or your future job prospects.
Absolutely, for both the employer and the potential employee.
Okay, so that wraps up our deep dive into these 4, let's say, core strategies for making recruitment more efficient, more successful, and maybe a bit less painful for everyone involved.
Quick recap first. Ditch the frustrating spaghetti approach. Get targeted. Focus on fit over sheer volume. And maybe don't be afraid to go analog sometimes to find those really strong leads.
Second, practice early transparency. Get those potential deal breakers, especially things like salary and timeline, out on the table right away. Avoids wasting everyone's time on a mismatch waiting to happen.
Third, think beyond just the bullet points on the resume. Really assess for character, for cultural fit. Remember, the source strongly suggests attributes like, grit, adaptability, intellectual humility. Those are much harder to teach than specific skills.
And finally, number 4, remember that a no today isn't necessarily a no forever. Rejection is often temporary, based on timing or logistics. So keep those communication lines open. That connection might pay off when the conditions are right later on.
Right. And that point about skills versus character, it leads to a really interesting final thought for you, the listener. Our source makes a very strong case. Skills and knowledge. Teachable. Changing someone's fundamental personality or character, incredibly difficult, maybe impossible.
Yeah.
So if personality and cultural fit are the hardest things to get right and the hardest things to change later, it raises a big question as you approach your next hire or your next job search. How much time and energy should you really dedicate to assessing character, culture, and fit? Maybe above all else, right there in the initial screening. What's the true long-term cost of getting that wrong, of hiring purely for skills? Something to think about.